Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Friday, September 12th, after the Toronto Blue Jays completed a series win over the Houston Astros, and as they get set for a suddenly pretty important series against the Baltimore Orioles. I'm your host, Zach Worden, joined as always by Jori Negin-Shecter. And Jori, how are you feeling as we kind of head into this weekend of really important AL East baseball?
Yeah, every series is suddenly the biggest series of the season. Jays obviously set to square off against the Baltimore Orioles, and we'll be keeping an eye down the road over at Fenway. Got a big Yankees-Red Sox series that will certainly be very important for the Blue Jays, but big couple games here against the Astros for sure. Nice to pick up the series win there, and lots to dig into there.
Yeah, we can kind of get into the Astros. I mean, just before we kind of hit that though, I mean the Orioles thing is kind of interesting because it's, a good chance for the Blue Jays if you handle and take care of your business, you're going to be gaining games on at least one team. But if you lose any games to the Orioles, then you're automatically losing ground to one of the teams. So you kind of hope that you're probably looking for like a Red Sox take two or three there for your playoff hopes, and then that they kind of battle it out with the Yankees, and you're able to sweep or at least take two or three. It'll be it's kind of you kind of love it when that happens, but you also kind of hate it because you have like you the pressure's almost on you to like win.
They got to take care of business. That's what it's going to be. And the Orioles, obviously, not the same team that they were at the beginning of the year. Much,
Playing
much,
better
much,
though.
much better. Much better.
Yeah.
They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're coming in
Yeah.
pretty hot,
And you
but
got Trevor Rogers game one, who's been like the best pitcher in
like really
baseball.
good. Not going to be an easy series for sure. But as long as you take care of business, this is a winnable series
Yeah.
and is going to be a substantial one, a very important one because it's September. Every series is the most important series until further notice.
Well, let's talk about that Astro series because a pretty eventful three games. Obviously, you enter the first game of the series and the Bo Bichette injury kind of has everybody down, I would say. And the lineup certainly looked like it, being no hit through 5 innings before George Springer hits a home run, and then you get the dramatic comeback and a big swing by IKF, the Vlad basically taking over the game in the 10th inning, and then Kevin Gausman's, I think we can kind of start with him because like what an outing he had yesterday. Complete game shutout, 2 hits, 1 pitch away from a Maddox. Gausman has been everything the Blue Jays could have asked for and more when they signed him a few years ago. Obviously a Cy Young finalist in 2023, really good in 2022. Last year was still solid enough, and this year, he's kind of turning it on at the right time. So I mean, if there's ever a time to give a guy his flowers, it's after a start like that. And I mean, for you, kind of being in the building this week, what were you what was your reaction to Gosman's start?
I mean, just the atmosphere there, really, just the support for him was really awesome. The outing was incredible. Got there at 3 o'clock, was out of there by 5:15. It was he diced them up like very few starts. And at the game, you're kind of thinking this is really like unique. Like this feels like I'm seeing like a no-hitter almost. It
Yeah.
was that kind of outing for him. And then you look at the numbers post game. Best start of his career by game score and best start by a Blue Jay by game score since Marco Estrada flirted with a perfect game in 2015. We're literally talking a decade between starts of this caliber for the Blue Jays. This was Kevin Gausman at his Kevin Gausmaniest. He was generating whiffs. He was getting ahead of everybody, and he was making the
Yeah.
Astros look silly. He had Jesus Sanchez begging for mercy in more ways than one. But it was a really remarkable game for sure. They got a little bit lucky on the offensive side of the ball at times, a couple of funny bounces and funny
A,
this and funny that. But
a pair of hits for Addison Barger that
oh yeah,
probably should not have been, but
oh yeah. But no, I mean the story of the game was the pitching. The story of the game was
yeah.
the pitching for sure. And Kevin Gausman looked like your game one starter, which, given the presence of Shane Bieber, is a really interesting development. And they had this in the post game. 22 strikeouts to 2 walks for Kevin Gausman over his last 3 outings against the Yankees, the Brewers, and the Astros. That is legit. That is it. It makes you think a lot, a lot, a lot about who your guy is going to be for game one against whether it's the Yankees, whether it's the Red Sox, whether it's well, it won't be the Astros. Well, it might be the Astros. You know, it it's so fascinating. It's so enticing, and it's really just like couldn't ask for it at a better time.
Yeah, so I think there's so many layers to this conversation, and I mean, I kind of want to start like it's been like a dominant stretch for Kevin Gausman. Going back to I have his last 14 starts kind of filtered here, and it's a 2.36 ERA. It's 91 innings. It's him pitching into the eighth inning multiple times. I believe he has the most starts into the eighth inning or deeper in the majors this
Post
year.
just on that note, because it's related. Post All-Star break, nobody has as many innings as he does.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like through those 14 outings, and I guess this would be post All-Star break. I'm not sure why or no, sorry, he has one start, but anyways, 24% K rate, 5.9% walk rate, and he's given up like a few homers, but by far less than he kind of was at the beginning of the year. So, and holding opponents to a 177 average. Like this is kind of the Kevin Gausman. The strikeouts are down a little bit from 2023 when he was a Cy Young finalist, but like this is the dominant Kevin Gausman that we saw a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, the strikeouts are down, sure, but the walks are down and the
Yeah.
homers are down from that time too, right? Like this is a different version of that Kevin Gausman, but at the end of the day, it's still the Kevin Gausman that was your ace for basically two full seasons.
Is he the best Blue Jays starter since Roy Halladay?
I don't think that there's another guy you can put in that conversation. I look at, those 2015 teams. You obviously had a lot of name brand guys. You had the Burleys. Marco Estrada had a couple of really exceptional years. You move along to, the dark ages of Tanner Rourke. Certainly he's not in the discussion. And then you've got Alek Manoah in the discussion, but he's not going to be even close. I'm not sure who else is even in that conversation. He might be the second or third best starter of the 21st century for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, so I pulled it up since 1998. Blue Jays starters ranked by FWAR. It is Roy Halladay, number one, obviously. There's 48.6 there. And Kevin Gausman is second with 17.3. In third is Marcus Stroman. That's, a little bit of volume probably lead to that. Obviously, he had a good Blue Jays career. A couple like all-star level pitcher. And then, beyond them, you're looking at Kelvin Escobar, Jay Happ, AJ Burnett, David Wells, Chris Carpenter, Ricky Romero, Brandon Morrow. Yeah, like I don't think it really is a conversation. And, he's got another year on his deal too, so there's time to add to that. And it's been, just a pretty electric run. And like what a signing for them to, see Robbie Ray win the Cy Young in 2021 and turn around and say, we're gonna go with Gausman instead.
Yeah, I mean, like, what a way for Ross Atkins to like not to be gruesome here, but he really let his nuts hang on that one. That's gnarly stuff. That's awesome stuff. It's just been an incredible couple years for Kevin Gausman. There's been the downs, there's been the injuries, and through it all, he's the return on investment has been many times fold.
We can do the game one discussion. I think it's still maybe a little early, right? Like there's still probably three or four more starts left for each of these guys in the rotation. But I mean, tomorrow, if the playoffs started tomorrow, I think you would probably go Gausman, especially since, the way an ALDS probably lines up, that would bring him back for a potential game five. But I mean, what are kind of your thoughts around? Generally wouldn't want to commit to that today, but I think he's making a pretty strong case.
I think he's made an extremely strong case. I think that there is something worth considering where, if I recall correctly, his numbers against the Yankees, obviously those are a factor. I believe they see his splitter really well. Thank goodness they won't be seeing the Minnesota Twins. I'll say that much. But, to me, like, this is a guy that I would be very comfortable having him as my game one starter because he's been game one starter worthy since July, maybe even June.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting conversation because, obviously everybody loves to talk about rotation order and everything like that, and there's going to be so much that plays into it, right? Like matchups, how guys pitch on certain rests. Like I think even, Shane Bieber after his start the other day said that he's still getting used to pitching on the 4 days rest kind of thing, right? So, is that a guy that maybe you want to give like a little bit of extra rest to, right? So maybe you go with him game one and game five in that kind of scenario, if that's kind of the way that you want to go, or however you want to line that up. And of course, there's still more starts, more info to be retained by everybody within the organization, everybody that kind of has to make these decisions. But as things stand today, like I mean, Gausman has been pitching the best of any Blue Jays starter on the staff right now, and I think obviously you acquire Bieber to kind of be that top of the rotation arm, but also like what a luxury to be able to have to choose between those two guys right now.
Well, it's suddenly become such an incredible luxury. Like you they took the words right out of my mouth. It's crystallized. They think that those are your 1-2. Not that that was ever really in question, but you're just gonna have to kind of decide who's looking good, who's healthy, who's pitching well, and you go from there, right? I mean, your game three, your game four starters to be determined, but to me, to even have the option to be like, well, you know, Bieber's been really great, but his changeup won't play as well as Kevin Gausman's splitter against this lineup. Like to be able to have that option, just
Yeah.
it really speaks to the resurgence that we've seen from Kevin Gausman here in the second half because he's been a completely different pitcher, been an incredible story, and gives the Jays a real weapon, hopefully to moving forward for October, right? Like not it's not just the ALDS. He's going to be a potential factor in an ALCS rotation. This is a guy that you are comfortable starting a World Series game.
Yeah, 100%. On Bieber, I mean, the last couple times out have been, kind of up and down. I think the Cincinnati start, he, got it back on the tr on the tracks after he has like the 5 hit, 5 run inning, and then he goes 4 scoreless, doesn't give up another run, another hit, anything like that. So you feel pretty good about the way that he bounces back then. But then this Houston start, he gets hit around a little, gives up 9 hits and 5 2/3, 3 runs, a homer. Only gets 4 strikeouts. Like, do you have any concern level on Bieber right now?
I think we're still in the feeling out stage. He's 4 games in. How many innings is he even at 25 innings? I don't even know if he's
23.
at 20. Like that's fun with sample sizes, like it's so there's not a lot of runway. Like you have to use the information you've been
Yeah.
provided. But you look at maybe like the home run fly ball ratio and you look at like the xFIP, the numbers indicate that he's done his job. The strikeouts are still at a good rate. The walks have been exceptional. He's doing what he's been asked to do. He's got to find a way, obviously, to avoid barrels because he's getting tagged when he gets hit. But that we have the examples of the homers. They've been fastballs that he's missed his location with. When he has his stuff, when he has his location, when he's able to locate that fastball, then he looks like he did in the Marlins start. To me, there's limited, if any, concern because you can very clearly identify what needs to be addressed. It's not a situation where you have to throw your hands up in the air and you're kind of like, what do we do? How do we fix him? Like maybe like a Barrios, like maybe like a Bass. Well, Bassett's been good-ish, or maybe Lauer's a better example, right? Uh, this is a guy that has the pedigree, has the skill set, has the toolkit and has come back and shown you what he's capable of and just has to go out there and execute. And when he executes, he is good enough to be a game one starter. And it's the same story with Gausman, right? Gausman's been executing. He's been a game one starter quality guy. You know, Bieber's been mixed in his execution. He looks more like a number two guy right now, a number three guy right now, but it could change in 2 weeks. And it would not be shocking.
Yeah, I think when you look at like the location stuff, it's like pretty obvious, right? And I mean, water is wet when a pitcher doesn't locate that they're going to get hurt. So, Shane Bieber's no different from any other pitcher. And again, it's not like he's throwing 98, 99 and could get away with that in the zone, right? Like his fastball is 92, 93, 94. So if he's missing his spots with those pitches, then yeah, it's likely gonna get hit hard, right? So I think overall, like I mean, this is a guy who's shown us the ability to locate. He's coming back from Tommy John, so the consistency is probably gonna waver a little bit. But overall, I still feel pretty confident that he's going to give you a competitive start every time out and be able to kind of manage and work around traffic, which he has, kind
That's
of
what he did the last
fairly
two
well done,
starts.
right? So
Second inning against the Reds and even this last outing, right? It's been a game of, you give and you take, He's had his struggles, he's had his bumps in the road, but he's made to the fifth inning both times, right? And that's at the
yeah,
bare minimum all you can really ask.
and they won both games, so gave him
So
a
it's like
chance.
he did enough, right? And
Yeah,
obviously you want him to put them in a position to win, but there's still benefit to him doing enough.
yeah. So and I mean also, we'll get kind of we'll see how it goes. Like he has, if everything kind of plays out the way that it's lined up right now, he's got starts remaining against the Orioles, the Royals, and the Red Sox. So,
Like those are two out
um,
of three are definitely winnable.
yeah.
And even that series against the Red Sox, this is not the same Red Sox team.
Yeah, no Roman Anthony for them. It'll be kind of interesting to see, I think, as they battle through this next little stretch where they have the Yankees this weekend, they have the Astros as well, and then the Blue Jays. So, of the AL East or the American League contenders, I mean, the Red Sox probably have the toughest schedule remaining. So, we'll see how that plays out. I think that Bieber can certainly he's shown that he can handle a lineup like that, anyways.
This episode of the Bird's Eye View podcast is brought to you by BioSteel. Use code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order at biosteel.ca. Again, that's code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order. For all your high performance hydration needs, visit biosteel.ca. Thank you again to BioSteel for sponsoring today's episode.
Let's kind of move on from the starter conversation because, certainly another hot topic of conversation after this Astro series or during this Astro series is, of course, the bullpen, which pitched fairly well outside of, according to John Schneider, one pitch from Jeff Hoffman in the middle game to Yainer Diaz. That is, of course, Jeff Hoffman's 15th home run allowed on the season, tied for the most among major league relievers. The Hoffman thing is so interesting because everything in the numbers, in the data, like screams that there should be like more consistent times ahead. And it looked like he was kind of getting back on track before this Astros outing. But I mean, you want to talk level of concern. This Jeff Hoffman stuff it's certainly to a point where I would say there is a level of concern.
You're gonna have to give me a moment here. I'm gonna look up the tweet from Chris Black. He had this on Hoffman, and a
Is
lot
it
of it
is the velo,
ties
right?
exactly. And I'll grab it for you right here because I'm gonna find it in just a second.
Yeah, so
And it really comes
as
back to
you
the
pull it up, I
fastball.
mean, like the fastball velocity and the slider velocity are both really important for him, and we saw it in this Astros one where, he's the fastballs are like 94, 95, which is a huge difference from where he was at early in the season when he was like 97, maybe tickling 98.
Like here it is, 97 or lower, 22 hits, 9 homers, 319 average, which is really tough. 783 slug, which is really tough, and a -8 run value, which take it or leave it. And then 97 miles an hour or higher, 4 hits, 1 homer, a buck 29 average, and a 258 slug. It's two completely different pitches when he's able to dial it up. Now, here's maybe this is some kind of copium. Maybe this is some, I'm praying for things to get better. But if there's ever a time that Jeff Hoffman is going to be able to dial it up, you got to figure it's going to be in a playoff game, right? So I feel like my concern, it's similar to Bieber, where you know what the issue is, and it kind of feels like the issue might kind of fix itself.
Yeah, it's so interesting because to me, you go hard at this deadline on relievers, right? So Anthony Dominguez, Louis Varland. And your bullpen immediately in the second half kind of falls apart, starts to struggle. which makes you rely on your more consistent guys, your more reliable guys, where Jeff Hoffman has, continuously this season kind of slotted into regardless of what the results have been. And to me, like you make those moves because Hoffman had kind of been a little inconsistent, right? And, we've seen when he's used 3 times in 4 days or 4 times in 5 days or a few days in a row, like that's kind of when his velo starts to fluctuate a little bit, right? So to me, like you almost make those trades to give yourself or to give like a guy like Hoffman a more strict schedule, right? So you're getting the best version of him every time out. But because the bullpen has struggled, it hasn't necessarily kind of been the way that
It's
that's
been
played
kind
out.
of like it's been counterintuitive. It's perplexing almost, right?
And because the Blue Jays have won so much and they won't give, any other reliever like a save opportunity in the ninth inning, that Hoffman's running out there a lot. So, to me, I wonder if over these next 2 weeks, if there would be a potential conversation of, Hoffman has pitched 2 days in a row and we got a save opportunity coming up in the ninth inning here. So we're going to go to Sir Anthony Dominguez or, name your reliever, obviously. And since they did that in Cincinnati with Tommy Nance and Brendan Little and they blow the save and everything, and it doesn't really work out. So, it's such like kind of this fine line that they're walking with this as well. I think you're right that you know what the issue is in the postseason. The adrenaline will be there, and you feel pretty good about Jeff Hoffman when he's throwing 97. So is it kind of one of those things that you just got to prioritize his health before then and his arm and like getting him ready? I'm not really sure.
Well, even, with Sir Anthony Dominguez, they haven't really used him. He's thrown 2 innings this month. Like that's not gonna work. You gotta use the guy if you're gonna go out and trade for him, right? I mean, I'm sure that part of it is just, hasn't been opportunity. There's, game script, if you want to call it that, or whatever else. But you have to use your dudes. If Sir Anthony Dominguez is down the pecking order, fine. But 2 innings on September 12th is not, it makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, their bullpen usage has been a little weird this month. I will admit. Obviously, Eric Lauer plays into that conversation where we haven't seen a whole bunch of him, but of course he, kind of had struggled his last couple times out. So maybe you kind of understand that. And then, beyond that, like you mentioned, Dominguez hasn't pitched all that much. They've like gone really hard with Varland, and Fisher since he came back as well. But it is interesting to me because like Dominguez, I feel like is one of these guys that you want to be like using more frequently.
Well, it's also that you spent so much on him. I understand if you're concerned if you feel like you didn't get what you paid for, but he's been effective, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been fine. Obviously, the walks are what they are, but that's kind of what you were getting when you traded for him. So, um, the bullpen conversation is so tough to me, and like we've kind of had it a bunch recently. But I think when you kind of generally look at it, like you are gonna want to have these guys like kind of figured out by the time you're rolling into a playoff series.
Yeah, and I don't actually think that, again, it's kind of a little bit of the path to doing so. Again, it's not a situation where you throw your hands up and you're like, "What do we do? We're
Yeah.
boned," because it's very clear what needs to be done. They need to manage Hoffman's workload so that he's able to throw hard. Because as long as he throws hard, generally the stuff plays. And you need to, Sir Anthony Dominguez, you trade Jerome Watts Brown for the guy, use him to relieve Hoffman of some of his struggles, Like there's very clearly a lever to pull. It's not like you're struggling here. It's not rocket science. So I just don't really totally understand. Maybe there's some stuff behind the scenes. Maybe there's injuries, Do you have to put Hoffman on the injured list? Hopefully not. It'd be a bit of a disaster.
Well, if they got to
But
put him on the IL after running him out as much as they have recently,
like
then
what's
then
going
that's
on
some
here?
some there's some issues. But
So to me, there's just it feels like there's some very obvious solutions, and it doesn't feel like the Jays are choosing to take the path of least resistance.
all right, so I don't want to like completely shift the conversation, but I'm going to anyways. We got some breaking news in regards to tonight's game. Your starting shortstop, Andres Jimenez.
Oh, that's compelling. That
Um,
is super compelling.
I mean, we can kind of use this to shift into the Bo injury conversation because we haven't gotten a chance to talk about that. Obviously, a huge blow for the Blue Jays because Bo has been one of the best hitters in baseball, has been one of the best run producers, has been the most clutch player by Fangraphs clutch metric in the American League. Like it's not a guy that you easily replace. And one of the things that I think we texted about it like briefly where it was like, well, in his absence, like, wouldn't you not hate to see like Andres Jimenez kind of tested out on the left side of the field there?
This is a good little audition for 2026 here. I mean, the bat did not play at second base. No disrespect to Andres Jimenez, but the bat will play a little bit nicer at short if he shows that he's capable of playing a premium position. And it becomes a very compelling question to answer right now. We're gonna get our first kind of glimpse at it. I'm trying to think, obviously, in the immediate aftermath. Let's start with a Bo injury because obviously, as you said, that is tragic. That's the best way to put it. You hope that it's nothing more than kind of a mild strain and he's able to come back towards the end of the season, even the playoffs. At this point, you've clinched your playoff spot, right? You're playing for the division, you're playing for the one seed, although you might be playing for the two seed. But like, you're playing for the bye. And Bo helps you get there, but you're in the playoffs. Get healthy. Like that's objective number one is get to the postseason healthy. And there's no reason to rush Bo Bichette back. There's no reason to do anything crazy. So you got to make up the offense in the aggregate because that's really what you're losing with him. You're losing the offense.
Yeah.
And you're just not getting that offense from Ernie Clement. No disrespect.
I mean, the guy says he can barely hold a bat right now, so but
I
he's also
mean,
been hitting pretty well since the injury. So
well, you know who's had a really good season this year since getting recalled, and probably has a lot closer OPS than Ernie Clement does to Bo Bichette is David Schneider, who I mean, is he their starting second baseman tonight? Because that would seem
it's
to make sense.
IKF. Schneider's in left.
Okay, okay,
He's
I
hitting
get it.
second. So
I get it. Okay, okay, okay. It's not a disaster. Um, I'm not really totally sure what the difference between having IKF and Jimenez at second short is. I guess it's kind of a bit of a test case. I don't know if this is maybe a situation where, you have Schneider at second, and then maybe down the road you have like Santander in left, or, Springer's in left, and there's who's DHing. Uh,
before we kind of continue, I just want to pause for a second and can we appreciate the fact that the Blue Jays are sitting in first place on September 12th and they are running out a lineup that is George Springer in right, Davis Schneider in left, Vlad at DH, Kirk catching, Ernie at third, Ty France at first, IKF at second, Miles Straw in center field, and Andres Jimenez at
this is
shortstop.
causing psychic damage. This is causing actual physical brain damage.
I like it's a point that's been talked about all year where it's like, imagine if you heard this before the season started.
A
But
couple days
imagine
ago,
if
they
you
had
heard
they
that
had
before you
they had
started
an
the season.
IKF Tyler Heineman post-game interview with Tyler Heineman going shirtless. I would have been like, the Vladdy's gone, Bo's
But
gone, the starting rotations in shambles. They're chasing after they're chasing after the first pick. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, goodness, goodness.
it's crazy that that's where this season has landed.
Oh
Um
my God.
yeah, like I mean the Bo thing, obviously tough blow, and you really do hope that he's kind of able and ready to come back kind of, for the last week of the season or as soon as possible, really, to kind of get himself, back into game shape. Knee sprain, we'll
It's
see.
scary. It's scary. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
like
lie. It's scary. His issues before he was dealing with some quad stuff, and we saw how that affected his ability
yeah,
to hit. Um, Lower half stuff with Bo Bichette to me seems like it's significant. Do we know if it was his left or right leg?
left. So it's the other leg from where he had the issues.
Okay, so that's at least compelling, or maybe not compelling. That's probably not the word. Comforting, maybe is the word I want to use. Um, I don't know. Obviously with his leg kick, there's probably a lot of a lot of knee stuff going on. But I imagine because it's not his back leg, maybe you feel a little more comfortable. I don't know. I'm not a biomechanics guy. I couldn't tell you exactly what this is going to do to Bo. You got to find the silver lining where you can get it. Just and you've got to find a way to put together the offensive production that you're losing with him.
Yeah, 100%. And, I guess you're kind of trying to create some of that value defensively with Jimenez. I think that'll be worth monitoring. I don't, I think obviously this is a guy who's a very, very elite infield defender, and he'll probably, I would imagine that he's probably not as good at short as he is at second, or else this move would have been made years ago. But there is, certainly going to be an improvement upon the infield defense with him over there in this scenario. So
I don't know. We haven't
gonna
really
be fun
seen
to
him.
see.
We haven't seen him at short in a large sample size, especially not as like a Gold Glove second baseman. We haven't
Yeah,
seen him there,
yeah.
so I think that there's going to be reason to believe that he'll acclimate just fine.
I'm sure he'll be okay. I mean, he played shortstop for Venezuela at the World Baseball Classic, so
Yeah, he's more than
I,
capable.
I I don't know if that means anything, but he
We all
did
know that
it.
the World Baseball Classic is where you really test your fielding might.
His arm strength is in the 41st percentile. So
You know,
so
I
not
mean,
not
what's Bo's arm strength? I can't imagine it's all that much higher,
well, I mean, we
because
are talking about
Bo is not exactly known for a cannon of an arm.
Bose is 35th. So
I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just
I mean,
saying.
part of this conversation that we can kind of also keep moving along, a potential late season addition or late season comeback is the Anthony Santander thing. He hits a home run last night in Buffalo, begins his rehab stint after it got delayed due to some back issues. Obviously, the home run, very nice to see. Where are you at on Santander? Like, I mean, obviously it's a guy you want to get him back into the lineup if you can, give him a shot, and it seems like he at least does have that shot now.
Yeah, the homer to me is all you can ask for. Drew one or two walks last night. Also, I believe he drew one.
Two, yeah, he was
Two,
he, he
two.
was he
Okay.
was two groundouts, two walks, and the homer.
I mean, the walks also I think are compelling. Obviously, AAA is a bit of a case of if you don't swing, sometimes you will just get on base when it's minor leagues. But this isn't single A. This isn't rookie ball, right? Like these are guys sitting on the precipice of the big leagues.
So I
And
was watching the game, and it was funny to me because there's like a couple times where like the pitchers, I feel like they were like, oh my God, I don't want to challenge this guy, which
I mean, but
is
then they
is a
challenged
is a fair
him.
thing to do.
They challenged him, and he went yard.
It
Obviously,
was
it wasn't
the
120 off the bat, but he still went yard. What, 104, 105 off the bat, still plays.
Yeah, it was his third at bat that I really noticed it. It was like 2-0, and then it was 2-1, and then it was 3-1, and then the fourth ball was just like not competitive at all. And I'm like, yeah, they
They
didn't want
don't
him.
want it.
It was
They
after the
don't want
homer.
any. They
Yeah.
don't want anything to do with. But that's
Yeah.
to me, that's incredible.
Hey,
It's a
if
40
if
homer guy last year.
if I
Like
was a
I'm
AAA
if
pitcher
I
and
would
you had
not
like
want to
a
test it.
rehabbing guy, I'm probably not throwing him a strike. I'm
No,
like,
no. There's guys on the Jays that have rehabbed that you could test yourself against. Like a Dalton Varsho, for as much as the power has been incredible this year, he's also like a 30% strikeout guy. Like you probably feel like you could get this guy out with your best stuff. Anthony Santander, again, for all his slow start, for all his struggles early in the season, still he still wields a pretty tenacious bat.
yes,
There's a reason this guy could come back as a full-time DH and would just, fit right in. We'll see if he comes back and is capable. I mean, we're gonna see the rest of the weekend how this
yeah,
plays out, but I don't know. I feel like my confidence after that first outing probably on the up in terms of where we're feeling right now as opposed to beforehand. You can't read into rehab stuff. It's we've seen that with Alec Manoah, is another guy that has had some stuff happen, and maybe we'll get to that in a moment.
has had
But
some stuff happen is
it's
certainly a way to
crazy.
put that.
Um, yeah, don't
So
read too much. Don't read too much into that. But I mean, it's not negative. It's positive.
Yeah, so I mean, initially they had targeted 4 games for his rehab. So Buffalo, obviously, he starts last night, and then Buffalo has the 3 games remaining in their series in Rochester. So if he plays, the weekend, 4 games, and say so he DHs tonight and then plays outfield Saturday, Sunday. You think Monday is probably a decent time for him to come back, join the team in Tampa, and then he does have like those full 2 weeks to get back into the swing of things. It's
He's
a
gonna be
really
rehabbing in
it's a
Toronto,
really
basically.
compressed timeline, but at this point, like that's what I would want to
That's
see
what you have to
for
do,
him, right? Like two
for sure.
weeks, 2 weeks of it, especially, you know, not like the Rays are the easiest of opponents.
But they're also not
You're not bringing him back in that Red Sox series, right? Like you're
no,
bringing him back in a series
no.
where, certainly things are going to be
And
ramped
you're
up,
gonna
but
learn pretty quickly what you've got with him. If he
yeah,
looks
for sure.
overmatched, like you are like, okay, it's not gonna happen this year, and that's just the way it goes. But I mean, if it works, it works, and that's I think the compelling, the exciting thing.
Yeah, like this is yeah, 40 home run bat. Like, I mean, can you imagine like in an ideal world where you get Bo Bichette and Anthony Santander back and you're going Springer, whoever you want to put in the 2 hole, Vlad, Bo, Santander, Kirk.
There's some length here. There's a
Like
lot of
like
length
that's
here.
that's a really deep lineup, especially with the way that Springer, Vlad, and you know,
Potentially Bo,
Bo have been swinging it,
Kirk.
right? Like it's and then, you look at your bottom half of that lineup and it's still like Dalton Varsho's in there. Ernie Clement, Addison Barger plays in. Like it's like that's would be pretty interesting to head into an ALDS with like that awaiting a team off of a wild card series. So
I think it would be a really dangerous lineup. Hot take, but I think that'd be a tough team to beat.
yeah. Let's move on to like another, you mentioned Manoa. Obviously, the other day he is reinstated from the IL, option to AAA, so they make the active decision to keep him in AAA rather than adding him to the Major League roster. It was a decision that was coming. It was going to happen. He has performed well in AAA by ERA. A
That's your
notoriously
your choice of words here seems to indicate something, but I can't quite figure out what.
um notorious great stat to evaluate prospects is or guys performing in AAA. 3.09 ERA in AAA. However, the strikeout minus walk rate is 5.6%. He's striking out less than 7 per 9, walking 4.6 per 9, allowing 1.93 home runs per 9. So that leads into a FIP that is 6.68. And the velo has been like 90, 91 instead of back to, his pre-Tommy John levels of like 93-ish. So, if
I think
you're I've seen some calls for him to be like, the closer in light of all of the Jeff Hoffman struggles, but he's not at that point yet.
I think it might be time to wave the white flag. I'm
Well,
not
it's
really
it's I
sure.
I think it's a 2026 conversation.
It's a
Is the
2026 conversation, obviously. Like, there's no reason to make the decision yet. There's no reason. But this is a guy that he can't be in the equation for 2026. It would
well,
take an incredible offseason
I
for that to be
mean,
the
like
case.
if he comes out in spring training and is throwing, 93 again, then I think there's probably more room for that conversation, right? Like if he's showing the levels of velocity and obviously the command has also not been totally there at AAA. But if he's kind of there's runway for him to at least move towards being like a potential option again. But it's there's a very specific like set of circumstances that have to happen for him to kind of enter that conversation.
Yeah, like he's gonna have to have the greatest winter of all time. He's gonna have to go to Driveline. He's gonna have to be like working out 25/8. This is a guy that's literally going to have to. This is gonna be a like save your career off season for him.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, at this point, months and months and months and months and months, it's kind of been like, oh, he comes back, maybe they'll have it, maybe he'll have it, maybe he'll have it, maybe he'll have it, maybe he'll have it, maybe. It's like, well, it's been close to 2 or 3 years at this point, and he has not had it.
Yeah. Ben Nicholson-Smith had a really nice story up at Sportsnet about Alek Manoah and how he's, really kind of like focused on the rehab and like the baseball and kind of working his way back rather than, working on trying to be, a productive member of the Blue Jays in 2025, right? Which I think is probably the right approach for him. Um, but yeah, like I mean, obviously a guy that you want to root for, that you'd like to see be able to get back and at least be like a serviceable starter. I don't think the 2022 Alek Manoah is necessarily coming back at any time, but if he could get back and be like a 4 or 5, that would be, I would imagine, a very huge win for both him and the Blue Jays at this point.
Yeah, it would be if he carved out an effective major league career at this stage, I think it would be one of the best stories,
Yeah,
I think, of any Blue Jays pitcher not named Roy Halladay.
it would be like on the same path of that, I guess, but obviously to a much lesser extent because Roy Halladay was a Hall of Famer. So, on the other side of the Alek Manoah move, though, is that they designate Orelvis Martinez for assignment to bring Manoah back onto the 40 man from the 60-day IL. A decision where, Orelvis, like kind of a tough spot for him to be in a 40-man roster crunch. Like again, I don't know if it's a decision that like I personally would have made because he's 23. Like the power indicators are still decently there, but the results have been so poor. The swing and miss has been really bad. He doesn't have a defensive home. He's just really struggled this year and is currently on the IL. So I mean, like, I get it. I get why they decided to make the move. I just, like, when you're picking between, this guy and, say, like an Easton Lucas, it's a tough decision. And Orel was also out of
It's
options for
also
next season as well.
That's the thing, right? It's also that he's out of options. And also it's you're trying to win this year, and who's more likely to play a role on the 2025 Blue Jays? Easton Lucas or Orelvis Martinez? And I think the answer is probably Easton Lucas at this stage.
It would,
It's a
there's
shame,
a
right?
long way to go, but yeah,
It's him and Manoah, man. It's like two just break your heart stories. Orelvis for very different reasons, obviously. And again, the exit velos are still there. He can still tag a baseball, but those are pretty few and far between, it feels like at this point.
yeah.
And, I was still up on him. I mean, like literally, I think 2 months ago, I was like, I still believe I'm still buying a Relvis stock. I'm buying the dip.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope the Baltimore Orioles enjoy, or maybe not even the Baltimore Orioles. I hope the Chicago White Sox enjoy Orelvis Martinez and what he brings to the table.
So, I mean, just for, the sake of like understanding where he's at, like the stat line this year, 72 WRC plus, it's a 176 average, 13 homers, 288 OBP, a 348 slug. After last year, he was a 523 slug and a 346 OBP. So, kind of shows you how far he had fallen this year. The hard hit rate is down from 45% last year to 36% this year. Average exit velo down 3 miles per hour. Even the max EV down 3 miles per hour, which, again, that's like one swing, but
Yeah,
um,
but it's still a factor, right?
yeah,
Max EV tells you a lot. So
yeah. And the swing strike rate is not improved at all in another trip at or in his third year at AAA. The chase rate went up this year. The contact rate stayed the same, and he just really struggled against breaking stuff. So
so long. Thanks for the memories. It was great to have you for
prospects
48
fly
hours.
forever. Prospects fly
That's what they
forever.
say. That is what they say. That is what they say. You should always keep your prospects. Never trade your prospects. What's you can only lose 100% uh of your gambling losses, but you can win an infinite amount. You can only bust, I don't know how this analogy works. Whatever, you get the idea.
Maybe they can pull off like a Cabin Biggio for Braden Fisher trade with the
Yeah,
Relvis here.
that's definitely something that they're definitely going to be able to control. Yes,
Do you know,
definitely a
are you able to trade him?
yeah, you could trade him.
But even though it's after the trade deadline,
Yeah, it's just that he wouldn't be eligible for any, like, I
he
best
wouldn't
I
be
can
eligible
tell.
for the postseason. But I'm just thinking like, like
Actually,
in because like another team, you wouldn't just be able to trade a guy. Maybe it's
Oh
only for
gosh.
cash.
I mean, this is probably something we could definitely research here.
I mean,
I,
great podcast listening for people
oh,
as we're like,
definitely.
hey, do you know the answer to this?
Uh,
If you want to look it up, I'll take the ball and run with it on Trey Savage because we've had, some more Trey Savage um results. Another Trey Savage start. They move him back to the rotation, and it comes after a bullpen outing where he doesn't last a full inning, gets just one out and faces four hitters, and he obviously bounces back on I believe it was Wednesday where he throws three perfect innings, strikes out four, just thoroughly dominates this Rochester lineup. Um, and I will say, I mean, like the best he's looked at AAA, 100%, because he was in the zone, he was attacking the mind, like obviously, he was perfect through three. It was by far the best that he'd been there. And I think one thing with him that's been like really an indicator of whether he'll be successful or not is his in zone rate and how much he's throwing strikes, which for a guy with good stuff, like kind of duh. But when you look at, I think his best two outings have kind of been the relief one, the first relief one where he went multiple innings, and then the most recent start. And both of those were his only two outings at AAA so far, where his zone rate was above 50%.
just closing the loop on this Orelvis thing. Can't trade him.
Can't trade him. Hmm,
Womp womp.
shame.
You Savage. I mean, should we do the Savage meter?
I I was at 40% last. You were at 20 last time, and I was at 40. So, what do you make of their decision to move him back into the rotation? Obviously, you're kind of flexing him around in roles, and it's not like the biggest deal to kind of have him do different things. But like, do you think that they were like, all right, you're going to go back into the rotation, kind of as like maybe we're not preparing you to come up and pitch for us in the bullpen as much anymore?
Seems like the most logical answer, right? It seems like that's probably what it is. I think at this point you kind of are past the point of him being part of your rotation. I think that at this point, or excuse me, part of your bullpen. I think at this point it's 2026 and beyond,
Yeah,
and trying to I think my Savage meter it's down to like 10%.
I would probably be. Yeah, like it's tough because what do we think? We think he threw 93 innings last year at North or at East Carolina, and so we were thinking like 110 this year, and he's at 98 now. So
There's not a lot of runway. There's
there's
just
not a
not a
lot of
lot of
runway.
runway.
Like it would have to kind of be now, and like I get like you'd probably be willing to push that a little bit if he were to come up and pitch in the postseason, but you don't want to push it too far, right?
Like
Like it's
you'd probably give him what, like 100, would you give him 120 innings even?
if he was feeling good, yes. I think on the same, kind of track of that is like he has moved around a lot this year, which of course, will put a toll on your body and your mind and kind of everything like that. So it's an interesting conversation. I mean, obviously, I don't want to like do the direct Jackson Job comparison because there's a lot of differences in them, but obviously Job kind of does the late season thing where he comes up and he pitches. He threw four innings for the Tigers in relief in the regular season and then threw 1.2 innings in the postseason, but the Tigers kind of had like a specific need for that. And the Blue Jays, as things currently stand, don't. So, if you were to tell me that you Savage would come up that the Blue Jays would have like some injuries in their bullpen and you would need a guy who's going to throw 7 innings for you the rest of the way. I would think, Savage could certainly play into that conversation, but I think as far as like at the deeper as we get into the season, the less likely I think that it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that the window for it to happen was
It,
probably
it
a
would
couple
it would
days
have been
ago.
like after this start, which,
Yeah.
again, the need would have to arise. So,
Yeah. I just don't think that there's a need. It's too bad, but he's still exciting.
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, like,
What an
dude, that
insane, stupid thing to say. Yes,
dude.
it's still Trey Savage. There's still lots of excitement to be had about Trey Savage. Duh. Just put it on hold for a moment.
Yeah. Very exciting future. And like he kind of went from, at the draft, you're like, oh, this is like a really high floor three to thinking, man, this could be like a one or two.
like a
So
difference maker in your
yeah,
rotation.
100%.
So
So
let's not lose sight of that.
no,
That's I
what
think
a
what I'm getting at.
very successful season. Yes.
Let's not lose sight of this being a very successful season for Trey Savage.
All right, before we go, one final prospect point we can talk about. The Arizona Fall League rosters have been announced. You know, we were expecting a potential Ricky Tiedemann AFL appearance again this year as he kind of works his way back, but ultimately he is not one of the seven Blue Jays going, as it is Josh Kasevich, Edward Duran, Angel Bastardo, Yandre Rojas, Alex Amalfi, Kai Peterson, and Shea Yeager. Interesting group of arms. I think Duran, really awesome breakout prospect for them behind the plate this year. Kasevich kind of needs the at-bats after being away with injuries all season. The arms are interesting, but I mean, Angel Bastardo is the most significant name going because he was their Rule 5 draft pick last year. Spent the entire season recovering from Tommy John, so his like Blue Jays organizational debut will come in the Arizona Fall League because he will need to be on the 26-man roster next year if they want to keep him.
Yep. And something just maybe that kind of comes to mind here, like Lazaro Estrada really kind of broke out in a major way almost at the in the fall league last year.
Yeah.
So there's stories of guys going to the fall league and catching people's eye. Would not be the first time that Blue Jays starter in recent memory went down there and looked like a contributor to the big league team.
Yeah, it'll be it's kind of interesting, obviously. Like, I mean, they pick him at the time, and he had obviously undergone the surgery. I believe it was in June 2024. And so the timeline, we were kind of like, oh, is he going to be back for like September? Like, are they going to have to add him to the bullpen down the stretch? Obviously, that's kind of not how it played out. I'm sure that once they were, firmly heading towards contention, that they were like, hey, maybe we slow play your rehab a little bit and make this a 2026 conversation. I think this is obviously just pure speculation, but I would imagine that you're looking at him as a reliever in 2026 and a guy that can kind of slot in like a bulk role, if
Yeah.
anything. So, will be worth monitoring. Will be kind of fun to see him pitch for the first time in a Blue Jays uniform and see how he looks.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's some excitement there for sure. It's like it's another prospect, another guy to keep an eye on. I don't have too much to add to it. Again, Arizona Fall League, kind of get there when we get there, I guess for me is the way I would put it. But
I love the AFL.
listen, it's fall ball.
I'm
That's
gonna
what
I'm
we
gonna
like.
hit up the BEV, the Bird's Eye View head office and see if we have a budget to send me down there.
Oh,
Um,
boy.
Anything before we run? I mean, Orioles series here. Trevor Rogers, fun matchup for them tonight. Obviously, we said he's been one of the better pitchers in baseball in the second half. Matched up against, I believe it's Chris Bassett tonight, and then Scherzer tomorrow and Bieber on Sunday. Anything specifically that you're going to be watching for?
Nothing specific. You just gotta win. Just win, baby.
Yep. Andres Gimenez shortstop. That's what I'm
That's
watching.
gonna be a fun one. Keep an eye
Put the
out on that.
ISO cam on him.
Oh yeah, we're locking in.
We are locked in on Andres Gimenez, the potential future shortstop of the Blue Jays. We'll have much more offseason conversation about what the future of shortstop looks like for the Blue Jays. But we are going to run. That does it for us here today at the Bird's Eye View podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us there at the Bird's Eye View podcast. If you're listening along on the audio provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. You can follow us all on Twitter. I am at Worden_Zach. Jori is at Jori Negin-Shecter, and the pod is at BEV_pod. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the series this weekend.